Yeah, well, I suppose we're very fortunate. We live in a country that's very rich in heritage. There's over 150,000 known monuments listed on the Record of Monuments and Places for the whole country. And one of the first things we try to do when we're identifying a route for a new road is that we try to avoid all of those known sites. But those known sites are only the tip of the iceberg, really. There's actually far more evidence for past human settlement lying completely undiscovered beneath the topsoil in fields all around the country. And it's one of the great things about a road development like this is that it gives archaeologists an opportunity to go and look for that evidence, which is what Fintan and Tony and the team have been doing here for the past number of months. And they've done so very successfully. We've 9 new sites found which had previously been unknown about, which already, just immediately following the excavation, has given us new insights into the Bronze Age activity in this area, into kind of hints of early medieval industry, and of course we have 19th century and early 20th century habitation here in Curraghatoosane.
We're going to record the pit in section, and we need to get a lot of good detail of the remains of the charcoal at the bottom of the pit. Okay, so what we have here is maybe a better example of one of the charcoal production kilns that we have. Again, this probably dates to the middle of the first millennium AD, and these were used to produce charcoal. You can just see at the bottom of the pit here some of the charcoal that remained in the pit after the rest was removed. And this charcoal, which is probably oak, was used to fire kilns and metalworking furnaces.
The crew here are excavating another quadrant of the burnt mound, and we need to get down to a level of natural glacial subsoil underneath the mound, take off this black material. A lot of the work is very heavy work, as you can see in the background. Mattocks, shovels, wheelbarrows. There's a lot of material, a lot of volume to be removed from here. So here we have what could be a possible trough that's been discovered beneath this section of the mound, this quadrant. This is one of the primary features in a burnt mound or a Fulachta Fiadh. When the other side of this is revealed, it may reveal a pit that could be 2 meters long, 1.5 meters wide, and maybe 50 to 60 centimeters deep. And this is where they boil the water for various purposes for the burnt mound. The burnt stones that were taken out of this trough when it filled up is the waste material that we're seeing all around us here. So this is one of the primary features. All around us outside here are some of the other ancillary features, stake holes, post holes, pits, that would have been activity associated with the burnt mound as well, but really ancillary to this main trough. So here we are in Coolnaleen Lower 1. This is a very large pit that was found beneath the burnt mound here. We're coming towards the end of the excavation of this particular pit, and just on this side, on the kind of western side, you can see that we found some packing material back against the back of the cut here, and there's some large timbers here and here. They're fairly poorly preserved, but underneath that is the most interesting part of this pit that's come up so far. You can see this very flat stone on top and some stones underneath that are keeping it up. And this is what we think is a bench in this corner of the pit. What I have in my hand is a stone axe head, most likely shale, that was found when we excavated this pit. This is a significant find, to find a stone axe head and these kind of sites. This is particularly significant because it was most likely used for woodworking, and we found a lot of timber inside in these pits and a lot of pointed stakes. These holes over here are where we got some preserved wooden stakes, pointed stakes, that would have been part of the construction of the bench, that was stone bench and timber back that was found inside in this pit. So this is the site of Garryantanvally 1 to 3. This is the westernmost of the mounds, Garryantanvally 1. And we're just in the process here of removing the last quadrant of the mound itself. And we're also on this side starting to put a half section through the trough that's associated with this mound. I'm just walking along the line of the paleo channel, the old stream that was coming through this site, through the 3 burnt mounds in Garryantanvally 1 to 3. You can see along this side, it came along, meandered around, comes up behind me. Burnt mounds were typically built in areas where wet, marshy ground, where they needed water. And a stream is not uncommon to be found near burnt mounds. And it appears that this old paleo channel was most likely here when the burnt mounds were here. So we're here in the site of Garryantanvally 1 to 3. 3 burnt mounds that were discovered here. And as previously discussed, the paleo channel which runs down along through the site. This is the easternmost of the mounds, Garryantanvally 3. The mound has been removed, been excavated by hand and recorded. And underneath we've discovered this beautiful rectangular trough, typical of this kind of site. At the moment we're in the process of excavating it, and Christian is just taking some samples here for carbon-14 dating, and he's taken some stone from here as well for petrological and lipid analysis. That will hopefully shed some light on the past peoples of this particular site.
So this big timber here is made from a piece of boxed oak, and that means when the tree was felled, it would have been, the rounded outer pieces would have been split off using wooden wedges and mallets, and then using large axes to dress the timber down to a square or rectangular form that was wanted for the building that this was to go into. Once they had the required shape, then there were 13 mortises in total were cut along the length of this timber, very evenly spaced. Now it's a really long piece, it's a couple of meters long, so it came from a fairly big oak tree, and it's had a fairly hard time before it landed here. Its surfaces are very worn, it suffered from water erosion, and it's been broken at both ends. A piece like this might have been a base plate for a building with upright vertical posts placed in all the mortises, or possibly it was used maybe in the first floor of a building and support boards or support beams went into these mortises to support a floor. So this small piece here then in front has a dowel hole in it, and that indicates that this was originally fixed to another piece of wood using a large wooden peg or dowel. However, it's only a fragment, it's quite small, and again very eroded and worn. It could be part of a much bigger element and perhaps was never intended to be this small.
So we're here in Gortcurreen 1, the site of these large structural timbers. This is the largest piece, it's a mortised beam, and since the last time we were here we've exposed a lot of the timber, excavated it by hand and revealed it in its entirety. So this timber has been recorded, photographed, and today it's being professionally illustrated by Sarah Neeland. We will be lifting the timber today after the drawings, and we will be taking a dendro sample from a section of this timber for species ID and hopefully dating. This is the final phase of the excavation of the site. The next phase will be post-excavation analysis and research, and in particular comparative research for these timbers that will hopefully shed light on their date and their function.
So in relation to all the road construction projects that are carried out in Ireland, we have a programme for archaeological investigation and then excavation to preserve the sites that are going to be impacted by the road. And here in Listowel, over the last 3 months or so, the team from Archaeological Management Solutions have been working hard at carrying out the excavations and preserving the remains of these previously unknown and undocumented archaeological sites. So the programme of excavations is coming to a conclusion now, and the archaeological team will return to their offices and their laboratories, and they'll analyse the results, the artefacts and the samples that they've taken during the excavations. And those reports really ensure that the sites that were excavated in advance of construction of the bypass are preserved by record. And by that means anybody into the future will be able to consult those reports and be able to find out not only what the archaeologists found, but also what they concluded about the people who lived on those sites and the activities that they carried out there. And the important thing is that this information will be available to not only to scholars in the future, but also to anybody, whether they're living in Listowel or Tralee or even further afield on the internet.